Have you ever heard a story so big you thought, "No way, that can't be true"? Well, scientists have found something huge. Literally. It's about giants, those enormous beings we usually find stomping around in fairy tales. But what if I told you that there might be a sprinkle of truth to those tall tales? Yep, you heard that right. So, let's dig into the evidence and see if giants really could have walked the earth. Okay, so when we talk about giants, we're not finding magical beanstalks or golden eggs. But believe it or not, our planet was once home to some seriously big creatures. Ever heard of Gigantopithecus blacki? Affectionately known as Giga. Imagine an ape so enormous it could stand up to 10 feet tall. That's stacking 1.5 Shaquille O'Neals plus a small child perched on top for a better view. Now, these Giga guys were the real MVPs of their era, strolling through the ancient forests of what is now Southeast Asia, long before it became a tourist hotspot. These weren't your typical movie monster apes. They were peaceful plant eaters, living a life of leisurely munching on tough, fibrous plants. Think of them as the gentle giants of the Pleistocene epoch, spending their days in the lush greenery, breaking only for the occasional nap. But let's get a bit scientific here. How do we know Giga was real? Well, our knowledge comes from fossils, specifically teeth and bits of jawbone, which tell us that these creatures were not just figments of prehistoric imagination, but actual inhabitants of our planet. Their size tells a story of a world quite different from our own, a world where being big was the norm, not the exception. The idea of creatures this large might sound far-fetched, but it's all part of Earth's long history of biodiversity, an epoch when megaflora and megafauna ruled, and the scale of life was just bigger. Giga's existence gives us a tiny window into this grand past, showing us that what seems like fantasy today might have been someone's neighbor millions of years ago. Moving from tails to teeth, let's talk about Gigantopithecus blacki, or Giga, our prime example of prehistoric gigantism. This giant wasn't your average ape. Standing as tall as a basketball hoop, Giga really puts the giant in Gigantopithecus. Discovered through fossilized remains, primarily teeth and fragments of jawbones, this giant ape roamed the Earth a few 100,000 years ago alongside other large creatures of the Pleistocene epoch. But why focus on teeth, you ask? Giga's chompers give us the best glimpse into his daily life. These weren't just any old teeth. They were massive, capable of grinding down the toughest plant material. Imagine the jaw power needed to munch through enough vegetation to sustain a 10-foot body. That suggests not only enormous size, but a specially adapted lifestyle geared towards a plant-heavy diet, making use of those massive muscles that would make any modern gym-goer jealous. And it wasn't just his size that was impressive. The ecological niche Giga filled speaks volumes about the environment of the time, lush, rich, and full of life, capable of supporting such a large vegetarian. This giant ape's existence helps us understand the biodiversity of our planet's past and the various evolutionary adaptations that have occurred. By studying Giga, scientists can piece together the puzzle of Earth's prehistoric ecosystems, giving us a clearer picture of how our world used to be and how it has changed over millions of years. Now, let's shift from prehistoric giants to more familiar territory: humans. Have there ever been giants among us? Well, if by giants you mean people towering over us at mythical heights, then not quite. But there was Robert Wadlow, the tallest man ever known, who stood at almost 9 feet tall. That's giant enough for most of us. Born in 1918, Wadlow reached this extraordinary height due to a medical condition known as gigantism, where his body produced too much growth hormone. However, Wadlow's life with such stature was not an easy road. While his height made him famous, it also brought a plethora of health issues and practical challenges. His condition required special accommodations for clothing, transportation, and living spaces. Moreover, his incredible size eventually contributed to his early death. An infected blister led to his demise at just 22 years of age. This highlights a crucial point. Being extraordinarily tall, much like our friend Giga, comes with significant challenges in a world not built for such size. Every culture across the globe has spun yarns about giants, from the titans of ancient Greece to the frost giants of Norse mythology. These stories share a common thread. They all reflect humanity's fascination with the idea of beings much larger than ourselves, beings that embody power and mystery. But here's where it gets interesting. While these tales are captivating, they're not grounded in scientific evidence. Most anthropologists agree that these legends likely sprang from our ancestors' attempts to explain the large bones they found, bones that belonged to animals like mammoths and whales, not mythical giants. This narrative urge isn't just about entertainment, it's a fundamental part of human nature. Our ancestors used stories to make sense of their surroundings, to explain the unknown, and to convey moral lessons. Giants were perfect protagonists for such stories, powerful, mysterious, and a little bit terrifying. Despite the lack of proof for the giants of lore, the story of Gigantopithecus blacki stands on solid ground, literally. The evidence supporting Giga's existence is tangible, found in the form of fossils scattered across Southeast Asia. These fossils paint a picture of a real giant, one that walked the earth not in the pages of a storybook, but in the flesh. While human giants like those described in myths may not have roamed the earth, Gigantopithecus provides a fascinating look at what giants in the animal kingdom looked like. By studying these remains, scientists can learn not only about Giga's lifestyle and diet, but also about the environmental conditions of the time. This information is crucial for understanding how our planet has evolved and how different species have adapted or failed to adapt over millennia. So, while we may not find a frost giant's hammer or a titan's helmet buried in the earth, we have found teeth and bones, evidence of a different kind of giant, one that really did exist. Gigantopithecus blacki, our very own ancient giant, offers a glimpse into a past that is every bit as fascinating as the myths and is backed by solid evidence of science. Now, why don't we have actual human giants roaming around? While legends are fun, the science behind why we don't encounter humans towering like skyscrapers is even more fascinating. According to insights from a recent article by IFL Science, the existence of human giants contradicts the fundamental laws of physics and biology that govern our world. You see, our bodies are not just scaled-up versions of smaller bodies. As size increases, the physics of weight and strength don't play along on a one-to-one scale. Imagine if we just stretched a human to giant proportions. Their legs wouldn't just be long and lanky, they'd have to be unbelievably thick to support the colossal weight. We're talking tree-trunk-thick legs, not exactly handy for picking up golden goose eggs or sneaking around castles. Biologically, too, bigger isn't always better. The square-cube law, a principle that dictates as a shape grows in size, its volume grows faster than its surface area, tells us that a giant human would face insurmountable challenges. Their bones would need to be disproportionately massive to prevent them from snapping under their weight, and their muscles would need a Herculean force just to move. Simply put, a 10-foot-tall human would struggle with the everyday act of walking, let alone chasing after pesky intruders or playing hide-and-seek with villagers. Moreover, scaling up humans would lead to severe overheating. A giant's body would produce so much internal heat from metabolic processes that dissipating it effectively through the relatively smaller surface area of its skin would be impossible. Imagine being perpetually stuck in a sauna suit, not the best condition for storming castles or embarking on heroic quests. So while the idea of human giants has a certain poetic charm, the reality is that our world operates under constraints that make such phenomena biologically and physically implausible. But hey, that's no reason to be downhearted. The fact that nature doesn't support giants only makes the diversity of life we do have even more remarkable. So, next time you hear a tall tale about giants, remember that while the stories might be bigger than life, there's always a chance there's a bit of truth hidden in those giant footsteps. Who knows what else we might discover?